Raw.
Hey there, hey Jeremy, welcome to another edition of Ask the General. And we've got some great questions lined up for you today, so let's get right to it. Question 1, is blood volume training better than high rep sets, constant tension versus full range of motion reps? As far as blood volume training goes, I don't know exactly what you mean by that versus high reps. You should always have constant tension on the muscle anyway, and you should always be going through a full range of motion. Science shows that training your muscles in the full range of motion is best for maximum muscle gains. So, and you should always feel the muscle. You should be feeling it even when you do full range of motion. When you get to the bottom of the rep, it doesn't mean that you have to take any of the tension off the muscle. You really want to train with your mind and muscle together. So even when you, for example, have a bicep curl and you're at the full locked out position, you can even flex your tricep a little bit. You want to keep that muscle very tense. So you don't want to actually leave any tension off the muscle anyway. So even when it's in the full range, you still want to be squeezing that muscle and feeling the muscle work throughout the full range of motion. So as far as high rep sets go, high rep sets are great. Low rep sets are great. It doesn't really matter. Once again, science shows as long as you take it to muscular failure, it doesn't really matter what rep range you use. However, I do recommend using many different rep ranges, many different rep speeds. What you meant by constant tension was maybe not locking out all the way. I think those are really good for finishing your sets off. So partial reps to really increase the intensity, because of course you are stronger in a shorter range of motion. So once you can't do full range of motion anymore, then maybe go to partials. So hopefully that answered your question on that one. If not, write me back and I'll see if I can do a better job for you. Question number 2 is, do you have a refeed day? If so, how often and how much do you increase carbs? Well, I do have a refeed meal every week. So it's not a full refeed day. I don't think really, even when you're dieting for a contest and your carbs and your calories are really low for 6 days of the week, I don't think you need a full day of refeeding in order to shock your muscles to keep your body burning fat. And that's why you have a refeed meal. Anyway, for those of you that aren't familiar with a refeed meal, some people call it a cheat meal. It's to spark your metabolism back, because after your calories are so low for so long, your metabolism slows right down. So you give yourself a refeed meal, and that brings your metabolism back up. Now, I don't like a refeed day, because a refeed day can really set you back further than it can benefit you. So I like to go with just a refeed meal. And I still like to keep the refeed meal relatively balanced, meaning that it will have protein, it'll have healthy fats, it'll just be high in carbs. So instead of being, when I'm dieting, mostly it'll be high protein, higher fats, super low carb. I'll kind of reverse that. I'll have some good quality protein, good quality fat, and have a lot of carbs. And I don't really measure the number of carbs necessarily, because it's one of those things. My refeed meal is the only meal I really don't calculate the macros for, because I don't want it to be I want it to be as relaxed as possible. So I don't want to really keep track of carbs or anything. So I just eat. I try to limit it to about 2 hours, and that is that. So hopefully that answers that question for you. Question 3 is, in the last episode, you only mentioned GP3 and AMO8 for an athlete coming off a cycle post-contest. Wouldn't this be a good time to add Testdex and or ALPHA? Well, that's a great question, and yes, I did leave it out. I kind of put ALPHA and Testdex in that whole PCT thing that I talked about. And depending on the strength and the length of time of your cycle, you actually could probably just use ALPHA and Testdex as your PCT. They're that effective. I would actually run Testdex with your actual cycle, because it's a very, very effective anti-aromatase and anti-estrogen. So think about that. Now, if you are doing a heavier cycle and you want your PCT consists of more pharmaceutical PCT products, that's fine too. And then you can always follow that up with some alpha and Testdex just to ensure your natural hormones are brought back as quickly as possible. So that was a great question, and my fault for leaving that out. Question 4 is microwaving your food detrimental to its quality? Now, I've heard this a lot, and people have wondered about it, and I've been asked it a few times. I mean, microwaving does the same sort of thing that cooking your food does, in that it speeds up the molecules in the food, and that's what heats it up. Now, does it damage your food? Well, it has the potential to damage your food, but so does cooking, regular cooking. So if you overcook your food, you're gonna damage your food. So the short answer is no, I don't think microwaving your food is detrimental unless you overcook it. And of course, with microwaving, it is very easy to overcook your foods. Question 5, does birth control affect PrEP for women? Yeah, it does. It's an estrogen based, it's actually estrogen and progestin, what the birth control is made up of. So anytime you have elevated estrogen levels, it's gonna make it much more difficult to burn fat and retain muscle at the same time. So yes, birth control is something that women, if they're at a high level, they should consider perhaps coming off it, or maybe consider a non-hormonal birth control, such as a copper IUD. Speaking of estrogen, Testdex is also fantastic for women getting ready for shows. I usually have my clients use it for the last month leading into a show, just to help with that, all those estrogenic type things like lower body fat, hardening, and all those sort of things. And I also use Testdex for the exact same reason with men, a month leading into the show. It really hardens you up. Estrogen is a little bit of an enemy when it comes to contest prep, so keep that in mind. Final question of the day. We had a question from someone who shaved themselves for the first time. This is a guy. I tried shaving my legs for the first time with a razor the other day because my electric clippers broke. Now my quads are full of red goosebumps, and I'm wondering if that'll stop after I get used to shaving, or if I should just stop shaving and keep trimming. You know, a few days before a show, you do want to use a razor to get rid of all the hair on your body. It's when you're under those bright lights, any little bit of hair will be lit up by the lights, so it doesn't look very good at all. So a razor is definitely the way to go. Now I'm glad you tried the razor this far out from a show, because I think you're about five weeks out, so that was good. The last thing you want to do is wait to the last minute to give yourself that first shave, because you really don't know what's going to happen. But I can give you a couple tips. First, make sure you exfoliate properly. Use one of those loofahs and really give your legs a good scrub, getting rid of any sort of dead hairs and dead skin and things. Second, you want to make sure you use a nice brand new razor. Don't use your girlfriend's razor. You can use the same razor that you use for your face. Just take that razor out, use a new one, and do not use that razor again for your face. Keep one for your face and one for your body. All right. Secondly, of course, you want to use a good shaving cream so that it gives you a nice smooth shave. And finally, shave with your hair growth. So don't shave against the grain, because then you'll end up with a whole lot of ingrown hairs and all that sort of thing. So that is it for today, folks. That is Ask the General. Be sure to post your questions on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, or you can message me on Facebook. Hashtag Ask the General, and we'll do this all again next week. Raw.